Hello, I'd like to welcome all you retards and screwheads to my latest episode. This is a channel devoted to taking the news of the day and adding a bit of a biblical perspective to it. Anyway, let's begin. You know, when I was a kid, I was on the wrestling team, and it was a rough bunch of guys, they're wrestlers. What do you expect? And we were at an egghead's house. You know, an egghead is one of those guys, he's good at the math and good at the science. And he was a really smart kid. And we were watching the movie Apocalypse Now by Francis Ford Coppola. And we were entranced because it's such a great film. And when it was over, we all looked at each other and said, wow, what a great movie. Fantastic. And this egghead said, I'm surprised you guys could understand it. Naturally, this didn't go over too well. And the next day at school, and this was years ago, we're talking the 80s, some of the boys, of course, took exception, and they removed his pants forcibly. And they shoved them into a locker, and we had those combinations. It was one of those tall lockers. Shoved them in there and, and locked them in. So he spent the next, I don't know how long, we all went to class. I guess he spent the next several minutes beating on his locker, and they finally got it open, and there he was standing in his underwear. And I guess the moral of the story is, if you're going to insult somebody, don't do it to the wrestling team, And you might say, what does this little anecdote have to do with news in today's world? Well, that little filthy dwarf, Tony Fauci, was testifying in front of Congress today. And he's an high IQ egghead, and he's such a despicable liar. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie, that little dwarf. Somebody should have stuck him in the locker back when he was in high school. Maybe he would have learned some manners. And what we're learning now is what actually happened. Trump used to call this the coronavirus the Kung flu or the China virus, but let's be honest, the main perpetrator is America, right? Fauci and his buddy Francis Collins at the NIH gave money to their buddy, I believe his name was Peter Daszig, to fund this Frankenstein research. And it ended up killing millions of people. It got out of the lab. And it killed a lot of oldsters, right? Died because of this research. And this little dwarf, Tony Fauci, and his buddy Francis Collins, they really have a lot of blood on their hands. It's as simple as that. And of course he's going to get away with it. But here's my point, is that just because you have an high IQ and that you've been to the best universities, that's no reason to look at us like we're subhuman. That you're lofty on this pedestal and the rest of us are subhuman. So if a few million of us die because of your mistake, it's not that big of a deal, because we're the useless eaters, right? You're high and mighty and we're the useless eaters, so you have a right to kill us. And if we die, it's for the betterment of science. What kind of crap is that? It's I guess people like Ayn Rand or Friedrich Nietzsche would approve, but I don't. Right? I'm not the Ubermensch. I would say this: if you have a very high IQ, you really have a responsibility to the world, not to abuse it. Certainly not to murder us, to murder our grandparents. Some of these people just don't get it. I mean, they're that evil. And I was in China when when the COVID hit, I was right on the ground. Let me tell you, it was kind of scary. That's why I got out of China. You know, China's not that bad. The food is great and everything's cheap and the cities are beautiful. But the last thing you want to be is in China during a pandemic and leave your life in the hands of the CCP, right? Anyway, that's what I'll say one more thing. All the foreigners, we knew that this wasn't what the press was saying, that somehow you ate a pangolin and it spread all over the place. We all knew it was a huge cover-up because it was so obvious. When you deal with China, they have a certain level of hygiene that really isn't up to Western standards right now. President Xi is trying to fix this, but if you go to a place in China, like a neighborhood restaurant, it's not going to be as clean as you'll find in America or South Korea or Japan or more developed countries. So we knew what was up. Anyway, like I said, I got out of there, and I am now. I can't really see too well. I think I'm at about 7 minutes. I don't want these videos to go too long because people don't have huge attention spans. I want to talk about this horrifying story. Oh, but before I do that, let me put the biblical perspective on this. Throughout history of man, we have these leaders who lord it over the common people. And when the common people put up a fight, a lot of times they kill us. Think of John the Baptist and Herod. John was beheaded, right? So it's these elites. Ooh, you got to be really careful of them. I'm not saying you should hate them or start revolutions, but you got to be careful. They don't always tell the truth. In fact, they lie quite a bit. Anyway, one other story. It was horrifying today, and it makes me think of predestination. I consider myself a 5-point Calvinist, and you have TULIP. Maybe I'll make an episode about TULIP, but P in this acronym stands for perseverance of the saints, or predestination, basically. And there was this woman from Missouri who killed her 2 children, and she shot her daughter, who was 9 years old, and stuck her in the car. And then she tried to sacrifice her son. Who she was sacrificing him to, I have no idea. Probably some demonic force. All right? It certainly wasn't God, the God of the Bible, because we know how he feels about human sacrifice. And anyway, she's driving along and she realizes the little guy isn't dead. So she stops her car and takes him out and drowns him and kills him. So she killed both her children. And now she's looking at, it's Missouri, so a possible death penalty. But I was thinking of this story, biblically in the sense of predestination. Like, nobody grows up and says, boy, when I get older, what I really want to do is have 2 kids. And then I want to shoot one of them, try to sacrifice the other one, and if that fails, I'll just drown him. It's almost like some people they just seem like they're destined to commit these evil acts, like they have no control over themselves. People talk about personal responsibility. I'm not sure if I buy it anymore. I'm not sure if I believe in free will in the least. This is a woman who committed 2 acts were just so evil. Anyway, I'm at almost 10 minutes exactly. And like I said, I don't want to go over 10 minutes because who wants to watch this in the first place? I certainly don't want to bore anybody. And so I'm going to stop now. And I'll see you next time. And I wish you all a great day. Anyway, bye-bye.